Hi there, welcome to Better Conversations Live. My guest today is Lorenzo Espinosa. We have spoken before, Lorenzo, haven't we? Sorry, I need to drink more coffee this morning.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I see him. Great to be here.
Yeah, nice to catch up with you again. I really enjoyed our podcast conversation. So I think we're going to be building on that. We're very aligned, I have to say, just a warning to everyone, we're very aligned on our position of motivating other people, leading teams and so on. So we're just going to, Lorenzo's got a lot of thoughts around that. So we're going to explore those today. Just to give you all a reminder, I did actually also put Lorenzo on the spot, and I've asked him to, as well as be my guest, to be my co-host. So that includes doing some of these things. Just saying a welcome, and over to you, Lorenzo.
Yes, of course. Please join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. UK time. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and of course on our website, Better Conversations Live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. You're on a
these are
roll.
and these are the times when you can tune in. Obviously, 8 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 5:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and 10
Yeah.
p.m. Pacific, I guess.
Asian, that's
Asian.
Australian Eastern
That's
Time.
right, of course.
Yes, I should get that right. So yeah, if you'd like to be our guest, you can email us at bclive at betterconversations.co, or follow any of our co-hosts and or connect with them or drop them a line as well. In terms of Lorenzo, you can follow him on LinkedIn. That's his handle. You have quite a responsive audience to a number of your posts, I have noticed,
Yeah,
which
thank you
is
for that.
fantastic. Yeah, no, brilliant, brilliant. Certainly one of our most active in terms of the podcast, being a podcast guest. I think your numbers went.
Yeah. It was nice to see us.
Yeah, it's brilliant, brilliant, really lovely to see. So you can follow me on LinkedIn at Siham. I think that comes from being an early adopter of these things, or maybe it shows my age. I don't know. Before we get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is delivering through others, I actually, Lorenzo, why don't you introduce who you are? Give
Of
us a
course.
quick intro of yourself and maybe how you and I connected.
Yeah, well, great to be here, Sihan, again. Thank you very much for inviting me. I do enjoy these conversations, so it's great to be back with you again. Yeah, my name is Lorenzo. My story is primarily linked to technology. I'm currently the director of data operations and product at Chattermill, a Series A startup in London. Basically, we are in the artificial intelligence space in unified customer feedback analytics. My role, as I said, is really linked to data, to product management, to leading teams and delivering through others, which is sort of my passion and what I've developed through a series of exercises such as MBA, going through companies like Amazon, such as big technology organizations, but always also grasping or trying to acquire knowledge from mentors, which is something I put a lot of value on. And that's why we got in touch, or we got connected, right? I think I saw one of your posts talking about better conversations, how to have them, or how to coach people to have them. Yeah, I immediately reached out to you, and yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, and what a brilliant conversation that is. I will put the link into the podcast interview, our original one, in the description after this. So if anyone wants to listen to it, I do recommend you do. Now, the second, take two, before we get into the topic of what we're going to be talking about today, which is, as you said, about mentoring, delivering through others. I wondered whether you had any thoughts about recent topic in the news, which is Apple employees pushing back on the decision by Apple executives to get everyone to return back. I think it's Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays was the directive from the fall or autumn time, and this has actually created a really interesting pushback. 80 employees basically have crafted a response to the executive team and laid out their requests very articulately. And this was reported in The Verge. It was also reported elsewhere, but I think there was a 503 error that was taking some platforms out this morning. So yeah, I wondered what your thoughts were on that, Lorenzo. Do you have a position on this?
I think it's hard to see what's right. I think we're very early in that stage, in that process of hopefully coming out of COVID, seeing what's going to be the new normal, so to speak, in terms of workplace setting. So I can see both points of views as people who advocate for going back to the office, people who advocate for complete remote policies, and people who advocate for something in between, the hybrid model, which is what I think Apple is going for. I think from my point of view, or personally, what I think that it's going to make the big difference is the type of work and the type of culture of the organization. What I mean by that, in terms of the type of work, there are some specific roles or specific settings that require much more collaboration, time and collaboration, potentially face-to-face meetings, or more close coordination. So those roles would potentially be more inclined to go back to the office. However, my perception would be that now that people have showed that they can work from home efficiently and effectively, I think people will have a chance or an option to actually do those remotely and really grasp or leverage the power of these sort of COVID accelerated technology adoption. On the culture side, I think this is what's going to probably define some of all these policies as well, is how do you maintain the culture of an organization with full remote employees. And this is particularly relevant for things like employee onboarding. If you have a new employee, if I compare myself with someone who might join my company after me and more onboarding full remote, of course, the onboarding is more challenging, just by the fact that, due to the fact that it's harder to meet people, it's harder to sort of connect with people, and it's harder to understand where everything is, what everyone does. And obviously, we are making a lot of effort. We're really building that remote first culture, but I can see how that is difficult for companies like the size of Apple or other companies with more traditional cultures.
Yeah. I think there is, you're right. We are probably at the early stages of appreciating that, and the implications of it and how it plays out longer term in terms of being able to communicate, being able to develop, and grow within an organization. That requires, I think that puts the onus a great deal on leaders to be to have their finger on the pulse in terms of, how each of their direct reports is feeling, how productive they're being, whether they need some additional support. Are there opportunities for them to kind of take on a stretch assignment, because you're not seeing those, and there aren't those incidental opportunities, are there, for having a chat and finding out actually, oh, you're really interested in that, or you want to grow, or you want to try something over here, when those things are missing. So while we've gotten more comfortable with online platforms, online productivity tools, we are also a little bit deficient in or lost some key data, which is more of a human touch that we have when we're in the office, the community feel, and everyone is different, and different styles of working,
Exactly.
different comfort levels, different neurodiversity conditions that mean certain things work better than others, certain environments work better than others. So yeah, my sense is that the onus is going to shift pretty quickly onto leaders having the skills to better manage their people and have the conversations that they need to have. And I was particularly interested in this because I wrote a piece recently about actually remote managing your people and what that takes. And I think that's, the article just scratches the surface of what's needed. But I think it is going to be quite a challenging time in terms of skill sets for leaders to to manage what their teams want, whichever way they go, whichever
Yeah.
sort of whatever proportion of remote to being in the office they end up with. So yeah.
Absolutely, and there is that challenge of keeping people engaged, as you say, Sihan, in a remote setting, because again, as you don't interact with them as often. You have every catch up you have with them is very sort of time boxed, and you have half an hour to really go to the specific feedback points or challenges that they may be facing, or things that you can help with. But there is not that sort of free flowing communication that you may have in the office, right? That is one difference, and I guess from a management leadership point of view, the other side of the equation is that you actually have to catch up not only to a new way of sort of managing your team, leading your team, but also to a whole new way of the work. I mean, basically the future of the workplace, right? We are experiencing it as we speak, and that has not been something that potentially I've seen in the past as part of my coursework or my experience, or potentially very few people may have seen it, right? So it's like you have to learn as you go, and obviously mistakes will be made, but the important thing is that we learn and we move quite fast, because I think employee engagement is a critical success factor for any business.
Oh, absolutely. And there is this, we have shifted significantly, haven't we, towards less of a homogenous way of working and something that is more flexible, more customizable to the individuals. And it's being clear as an organization and as a leadership team where those risks potentially are for your organization and how you're going to manage it. Being prescriptive and saying you have to come in Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday probably isn't the message that you want to send, because it's too prescriptive, and I think there's an element of look, there's nothing wrong in having an uplift in the quality of our working lives.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
really, we work really hard already.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that, So I think allowing that to happen and be said openly, and in return, I'll work my butt off and I'll deliver what needs to be delivered, right?
Yes.
For my team.
I think there's also the element of trust as well, trusting your team and trusting the rest of the company to that they're doing their jobs, and because they are, right. And I think I saw one quote the other day, like if you think you're running an adult nursery, then you're doing something wrong, right? And you don't need to tell people to be here at this time and leave by this time.
Right.
People know that, and people want to push and are motivated to really get better every day, and that's basically what they bring them to your specific business, right? I think it's more about trusting them and giving them the options that they need to really, as you say, create a better work-life balance and lifestyle that really allows them to also enjoy some of the other parts of life, which are also important, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so it's kind of a nice segue into actually delivering through others. What does that mean for you?
For me, delivering through others is probably one of the most exciting parts of my role or my career to date. Delivering through others in any sort of meaning or capacity, right? So that is obviously leading a team, but also it can be like just leading a project cross-functionally, or mentoring someone, or just helping someone out who might be struggling with a specific piece of work. To me, delivering to others is just allowing people to really thrive by giving them the tools that they need and the guidance that they need to accomplish what the business wants to accomplish, but at the same time empowering them to grow and giving them the tools to do better and greater things on a daily basis. To me, that is delivering through others.
And can you share with us an example, maybe a recent example of where you've worked to make that happen, and what the results of that have been for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I try to do with my teams and at Chattermill is try to understand people's motivations, and what I try to do is also progressively give more ownership to each person in the team. So. For example, recently, some people in the team recently left, went to other businesses for really exciting opportunities, which I'm very, very happy for them. But of course, that means that there is the opportunity for someone else in the team to come in and take that opportunity and really own and shape something new. But for them, I mean, for that to do them, you actually need to trust them and give them the ownership and the flexibility and the freedom and the space to do so. So that has been a recent example of really someone taking a new piece of work for him and really shaping that. Coming in, hey, these are my ideas. This is what I want to do. Let me just run with it. Is it okay? Yes, it's okay. Just let's check in from time to time, and doing that way, right? And the interesting thing is that at the same time this person was doing this, there was, I mean, his manager was also overseeing this process. So it's like, not only me, I'm trying to deliver through someone who's going to deliver through someone. So it's a compounding effect that you have when you coach people and when you allow people to grow and really trust them. To be honest, that's probably the key word for me, like trust, but always having their back. That has been it's really interesting to see how people respond and how motivated they become when they see that you trust the team.
Well, it's trust for sure is a big one, isn't it? What happens? Have you had experiences where you have handed something over to someone and given them that opportunity and space to shape it, make it their own, and then they struggle?
Yes, I mean that happens to us all. I mean, it's happened to me, and I think one of the challenges is expecting that someone who's given something completely new with no direction, just hey, go and shape this, is going to be able to do this right the next day, right? So obviously there are two factors: there's time, but there's also guidance. So you do need to provide some guidance and support to that person, and have that continuous checking, the second factor, over time. So it's almost like course correcting, and you're both learning from each other. You're both learning from difficulties of projects. You're both learning from sort of new insights that might shape how to you move forward. So it's all that iterative learning process that sort of informs how you move forward, both you as a manager, but also the individual. And I think that's probably when I've seen that happen. That's probably where the sort of the problem or sort of the challenge was, like giving someone something to shape, but potentially giving conflicting information, not being super clear, not being close to it to sort of for that person to ask questions, or not basically being clear that that person can ask as many questions as he or she wants, because otherwise, it's hard to get to the goal.
Yeah, and making sure that there's a good match, isn't there? That the opportunity represents a realistic and achievable challenge,
Exactly.
rather than just giving them something that they really have never done before and have no idea of. And obviously, if there are some regulations within that work, then it's important that they understand those and are knowledgeable enough to be able to at least make a start and have that guidance. One of the things that I encourage people to do, if I might share with you, is it is what I call creative alignment, and it's where you basically you hold back on trying to come up with a solution for a particular issue or situation or challenge, and you go through a sort of exchange of putting all the evidence, all the information, all the variables, all the options, risks, and so on the table, and you sit with them for as long as you can until this sort of something starts to emerge from that exchange. And I guess to an extent, I wonder how much of that creative alignment is truly possible from in a remote setting if a leader doesn't have those skills, versus actually if you are, sit down at work or go for a coffee from work and have that face-to-face interaction. So I layered it up there. One was about the creative alignment and of pulling back, not doing the solutioning, not jumping to conclusions about what needs to happen. What are your thoughts about that? How easily do you find it to kind of sit with something and explore and not go into solution mode?
It is certainly challenging, especially when you might have a very strong point of view. But that is something that I try to practice myself. So instead of, I think we should go this way, trying to entertain other options, ask questions. What do you think we should do here? Right. Let me play that back to you. You said X. How would that change the situation? And then try to come up with sort of a consensuated opinion or path. But yeah, it is certainly challenging to refrain from just, yeah, we have to do this. Let's just do it. It is certainly challenging, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that I try to practice myself with my team for sure.
It is. It's hard, and I can tell you, leaders on my course really struggle with it. We do laugh about it
Yeah,
because we realize how quickly we do jump to solution mode.
yeah,
When a direct report comes and says, "Oh, we've got a problem," we're in there
yeah,
like a
exactly.
shot. Oh, well, it needs fixing this way because we've done it before. I just want to jump back we've got a comment here from our lovely co-host Glenn. Comments, he says, companies need to be creative and open to a test and learn approach, which I think you
Absolutely.
endorse,
Yeah.
when it comes to designing a virtual onboarding experience for new employees. So Glenn is all over the candidate experience or the individual experience. Measures measure what matters to your employees and ask for feedback. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's interesting because it's exactly what we're trying to do at the moment, trying to get feedback from the team as to how they're feeling, how they're seeing their day to day, how they're seeing the future of the company, etc. I think it's quite important to really have a finger on the pulse. I think it's really important to get feedback. Otherwise, you don't know you're solving the right problem. I guess
Right.
that's basically what I do or
Right.
what I try to do on a daily basis. Try to get sort of user feedback, employee feedback, and really understand what the true problem is and solving that problem first, like the most of the highest impact problem and solving that. But I do agree that obviously I do agree with Glenn, like the onboarding experience is something that is so critical. I think employees who have a good onboarding experience tend to stay with the company substantially longer than
Right.
employees who struggle during the first 2 or 3
Right.
months
Right.
because they find their place, they understand, they have meaning, right? They understand where they fit in the grand scheme of things. They know how to contribute. They know that they're working towards something greater than themselves. Otherwise, if you're just in your sort of day to day and you don't have a clear picture of the vision of the company, it's quite hard for you to really say, I'm going to give it my best because I know if I do this, the company's going to get closer to this 10x moonshot that we're trying to go for. If you don't have that clarity, it's harder to get there.
Well, I think that initial that landing and making sure that you land strong, that the people that you've invested in going through the exercise of selecting, making sure they land strong, involves helping them make some emotional connections
Mm-hmm.
to you as their boss, to their teammates, to the work that's being done, and as you say, that sense of belonging or knowing how they fit in with the team.
Exactly.
What the value is that or the difference that they're making by having joined the team. And if you don't get that early on, if you leave them to flail and sort of, oh, go and read or go and figure out or go and meet,
Mm-hmm.
you create you increase the time that person is sitting in an ambiguous state, and the more ambiguity there is, the more they fill in the blanks, potentially
Exactly.
with unhelpful conclusions or assumptions. So yeah.
Especially when you don't have people around you who you can talk to, right? Like that's exacerbates the problem. You may have these thoughts, but you don't have anyone who you can talk to easily
Yes.
for you to sort of get an opposing or another point of view.
Well, yeah, and thinking also about working remotely, that unless you've got some way of that individual easily plugging in or connecting with their teammates outside of meetings, and I know some people do things like they'll all be on working, but they'll all be on a video conference,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily in conversation, but like they've got company.
Exactly.
which is a really nice thing to do. Do you have any other thoughts or things that maybe you've tried at Chattermill that would be you'd like to share?
I think some of the initiatives that we try, obviously, it's to me it goes back to communication, being making sure that you have the right channels of communication, not only with your team but with other teams. I think that's something that we all struggle with probably in businesses, especially in this remote setting, and I think that's one of the main challenges that we have, that I personally have, in terms of making sure that we are all aligned and making sure that we are all going in the same direction, and making sure that people are clear on sort of what the vision is for the business, and basically making sure that everyone buys into that vision.
Yeah.
So I think having the right communication channels, making sure that you have periodic check-ins with your team, obviously one-on-ones, making sure during those one-on-ones you always ask about how they're feeling, how their motivation is, how their capacity is. Something we recently implemented is like we work in an agile methodology, agile manner. So we do daily stand-ups, like tech stand-ups. So it's sort of an update of what I did yesterday, what am I going to do today. One thing that the product team recently implemented is ask for how people are feeling, but also how the capacity is, so that
Right.
you have a constant reminder of how people are feeling, but also, what's your capacity like, just so we know that as a business we're operating at this capacity, at this capacity, at this capacity, and obviously trying to action that, right? So if you see that the capacity is getting too close to the max, trying to enlist other teams' help, and making sure, again, the communication flows from one team to the others, from the other teams to yours. And again, that requires sort of a deliberate effort by everyone in the company to do.
Yeah, deliberate, very intentional in making sure that, like we were saying at the beginning, that that data set of how people are feeling and where everyone's at and what their workload balance looks like is something that is shared more widely across the company, so that you can, whereas before you might be able to witness a team working really hard or stressed, now you can't see it, and so there's is there a tendency to forget that maybe we are prone to overloading what we can do,
Of course.
because we're working remotely. I would suggest that you actually assume people are overworking. I mean, there are always people in the organization who perhaps don't do as much as they should, but trusting in people, and in the main, most people work hard, want to deliver something fantastic, and there is more likely to be a tendency that people will overwork, will work longer hours, will commit to more without maybe an opportunity to sense check whether they can take it on or not.
Exactly, and it's important to also ask those questions, in terms of how are you feeling, but also notice when, sort of trying to realize when someone is pushing too hard, or
Right.
to an extent that their mental well-being or the physical well-being is being impacted, and calling it out and say, hey, this is enough, take the day off, don't feel bad. I think people who are really motivated, I see this in my team, like they're super eager, motivated to really push forward, make things better, and they know how important they are to the company, Chattermill.
Yeah.
They try to really push and ensure that they can deliver, and they can take more, and that they can get better every day. But I think when that comes at the expense of your health, you might not, it's natural, right? We don't feel the same way every day. Like sometimes you're up, sometimes you're a bit down, and that's completely okay. And being clear about it being okay, I think it goes a long way. And if someone doesn't, is not feeling well, or is sort of just not quite there, and it's for whatever reason, a certain day is just not sort of happening for that person, it's saying that it's okay, right? Like we all have those days, and it's just better to take it easy, take the day off. It's important to ensure that your culture supports that well-being, because again, like there is so many options out there for people to go to, and obviously with these remote working hybrid policies, people are really realizing the importance of having like good mental well-being, good work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's important for people to know that they have the safety and the mental space for them to switch off and know that that is okay.
You've mentioned feelings a few times, and actually checking in on people and how they're feeling. Is that something that you think everyone is comfortable expressing?
I think no, definitely not. In terms of, I guess I guess my mind just went to your point about neurodiversity, right? We are all different,
Yeah.
and we all experience different challenges when trying to open up or communicate. Some of us are more introverted or extroverted than others, and have more of a tendency to just say how we feel, or we try to hide how we feel because we see that as a sign of weaknesses. This can be impacted by gender, culture. It's just so many factors that play into that. So we are all different, but yeah, I would say that not all of us are comfortable sharing how we feel, and it's obviously a challenge, again compounded by the fact that we are remote. So you might not see, because if you see the person, you can tell
Yeah.
in some cases, but if you don't see anyone or you don't see people as often, it's even harder to tell. What the words are not saying, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I was wondering, for people who maybe are less comfortable with that question, a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is I hear a lot of people say, I don't do small talk. And I think in some ways, small talk is however you come to define it, is perhaps more important than ever. We'll come to that in a minute, because I know it's a bit of a contentious point for some people. They have a really visceral, strong reaction to, I just don't do it, it's a waste of time. But for people who are not so comfortable talking about their feelings, I like what you said about, perhaps talking about workload levels. First of all, understanding that maybe that individual isn't comfortable expressing their feelings
Exactly.
or articulating things in that way, which is fine.
Yeah.
And but then recognizing what does work for them in terms of a way of checking in about, how's the workload, what's their capacity at, when did they last take a break. So yeah, I wondered if you have any sort of more pointers on that.
Yeah, I think one of the good ways that I found to sort of encourage that sort of share aspect is to try to understand the people in your team well. I think, like, trying to get to know them personally, and what I guess what I try to do every time a new person joins my team is trying to get to know them, like, what from a interaction or personal dynamics point of view, what works for you, what hasn't worked for you in the past, like what challenges have you had, and try to extrapolate and clarify what that person might be okay with, might not be okay with. They might not be okay with public praise. Some people are just not okay with that. They might not be okay with constructive feedback. After 3 months, most people want to know right there and then. So it's almost like trying to understand how to best work with each person. Also, basically gives you the tools to almost be alerted or be on the lookout for some of these bits, right? Because if you see that someone is potentially not as comfortable sharing how they feel, you tend to be a bit more, again, on the lookout for how this person might feel, and if he or she is not disclosing. But other things, yes, in terms of trying to ask for potentially the same things or similar things in a variety of settings, a variety of ways, in a variety of methods. Basically, let's call it a test and learn thing. To me, that applies to the way you interact with people. We all interact with people, and trying to find how to best get to someone. It's not always easy, but yeah, over time, I think it's just a matter of trying to find both ways. Need to find a way of communicating. Right?
Right. Well, understanding how each member in your team operates, and it's a great clarifying conversation to actually say, how do you work? What works best, especially if you've got a new team member, and helping them understand how they fit within the team and how you are as a leader as well.
Exactly.
Because we have responsibilities. We're always, worried about, is X getting delivered? Is everything on track? That if we play that out without any sort of intentional thought, it can come off as micromanaging someone, right? It can come off as really quite intrusive or taking over, and that's the last thing you want, right? You want that individual to really own their work and feel pride and a sense of accomplishment for it. So really helpful to just have that conversation. Hey, I tend to do this, especially when we're under pressure. I tend to need more updates, more information, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you as a leader, to actually articulate that to the person. That gives them permission to say the same back to you, and you can ask it. You can facilitate that by saying, how do you work? What works best for you? What should I not do that winds you up or that gets in the way, right?
Exactly. And I think that's probably one of the best conversations you, as a new person joining a team, can have with your new manager or your new team members. Like, how do you guys like to work? What does look like for this team? This is what I think. This is what you guys think. And obviously, trying to have a conversation. People worry too much about objectives. What do I need to hit by 30-day mark, 60-day mark, 90-day mark? But I think it's equally important to get to know the team, your manager, and how to best work with them and how they work. And obviously, if there is something that is actually misaligned, work together, because obviously most things in life are solvable, right? So it's just a matter of working together with someone to get to happy medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Aligning, right? And again, remind me, I do want to come back to this point about ownership, because I think it speaks to, your approach about delivering through others. And I don't want to lose sight of that, but I do want to talk about small talk.
Sure.
What's your position on small talk?
That's an interesting one. I personally, I'd say, I'm neither. I guess it's a very sort of. I would say that I'm neither for or against the small talk. It's just sort of what I try to do is sort of whatever works for the person I'm talking to. I guess small talk is bad when you're trying to force small talk and you're trying to follow a script. To me, that just doesn't feel natural. And if it's just. You can feel it, right? When you're talking to someone and you're trying to engage in small talk, and that person replies or answers with yes, no, yeah, not too bad, or yeah, it's been okay. It's like they just don't enjoy it. So it's just a matter of, okay, so let's just move on and get on with what we want to discuss. But other people really find it almost rude if you don't engage in that small talk, however you define it, right? Again, like the worst part of, or the worst way of doing a small talk is sort of having a script, right? And saying, I need to ask you about your weekend. I need to ask you about what you ate on Saturday. It's like, if you do those things, then it's like, where do you draw the line? So to me, it's just a matter of finding what works for each person. And yeah, if I haven't met someone or I'm trying to engage in a conversation for the first time with someone, I try to err on the side of caution and potentially just do a bit of small talk at the beginning. Again, just to be safe, but obviously do not go too deep into it, and then just progressively or naturally, whenever feels natural, it's good. Like this conversation, just shift to the business or the purpose of the conversation.
And I think you make a really important distinction, which is probably why a lot of people have a negative reaction to the idea of small talk, is when it's hard work and the person you're talking to doesn't seem to be reciprocating, and it may not, because it may not be their thing. They may not really connect with it at all. But I do encourage people to think about small talk as a way of an initial hook to understand and read the other person, read their response. It's not just about what comes out of their mouth. It's how physically they respond to it, where they take the conversation, and it gives you an initial read, especially, as you say, when you're meeting someone for the first time, or someone that you don't know very well on your team. And it's worth, if small talk is something that you don't like, then it is worth finding out, maybe having 2 or 3 ways of asking a question that allows you to make it inviting, that allows you to to create a bit of an emotional connection with someone.
Yeah.
So sometimes that helps to see small talk as more of a technique that if you don't enhance it, it really doesn't give you very much. But if you do invest a little bit in how you engage with people, and what questions you might ask, or how you use that opportunity, then that becomes, I think, more interesting, a bit more of a challenge, than just asking or talking about the weather.
Exactly, and it's like anything in life, right? Like the more you practice, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you
Right.
sort of find your sweet spot, your way of doing it, which is where you want to get to.
Absolutely. So tell me more about delivering through others, and maybe to sort of set us down a certain path is, how do you ensure, you talked a little bit at the beginning about, letting people own stuff and make it their own and determine what needs to happen. What things, if I can call on you to be quite specific, what things take away ownership, and what are the implications of lack of ownership?
I think things that take away ownership, probably if you don't have a clear set of objectives for you to own. I think that's one of the main ones, as I was saying, so slightly touching on earlier on. It's when you don't have a clear set of objectives from either your manager or the business, and you start seeing people pull in different directions, that immediately hurts your level of ownership, or something like the level of confidence you have to own the piece of work, because you immediately sort of feel the need to constantly check, is this okay, is this not okay, is this aligned, is this not aligned. I think that's one bit. Obviously, if you have someone who is trying to be very prescriptive in the direction someone needs to take, that takes away ownership as well. But also, obviously, trying to spill the beans in every solution. I think you should go down this path, etc. And always, I think communication is probably something that takes away. I think lack of communication is something that takes away ownership, in the sense that over time you feel less and less motivated, because you don't know if what you're doing is actually having an impact. So it's like, why am I doing this? Am I actually doing this for the sake of doing this? So almost like that communication piece, I keep coming back to sort of those concepts of the trust, communication, ownership. I think those need to be there all the time. Otherwise, people start feeling lost, and start again losing that motivation, becoming disengaged, and that's obviously a problem.
And something I see people do, and it's well-meaning, is your direct report comes to you with an issue, and if we jump to solution, we actually we disempower an individual. If we jump with here's what to do, and it reduces people's confidence, self-confidence in knowing what the right answer is, because my boss doesn't even ask me if I've got an opinion or what I think I should do, or what my recommendation is, but jumps straight into, and again, just very well-meaning, jumps into, well, you should do this. Have you done? And rather than, as a leader, being someone who asks questions to understand, where are you at? What have you tried? Do you have a proposal? What are your recommendations? And that can just take, in, I don't know, less than 5 seconds, you can demotivate someone from owning a solution. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're exactly right, and I think it's worth pointing out that I myself may have done what you're saying, like several times, right? Like, it's not like
It's
I'm
well
saying I'm
meant.
perfect. I have the perfect answers. None of that, and I think it's also important to be vocal about it. Like, people are not perfect. We are not perfect, and we cannot be right all the time. And I think you're exactly right. I think the fact that people want to sometimes just sense check that the path they've chosen is the right one. If you come in and say, let me take it from here, that takes ownership away for sure. And in terms of motivation, that's a problem for most people when it comes to going going to you for help for the next time or the next time. How do I approach this? Like, I actually want to ask for help, but I don't want this project to be taken away from me. And that's obviously that's a place where you have to draw the line and engage in that conversation. And obviously also say that if that person owns something, and again, they can come to you with problems, this is okay, yeah, please go up, ask questions, etc. They be creative. But then if they cannot get anywhere, they actually can come back to you, they can escalate, they can ask you for help, ask you to talk to another team leader or another person in a different department to really sort of streamline things and align things, because alignment obviously it's quite important. And sometimes it can feel that unless you have the organizational alignment with your manager, with somebody else's manager, with somebody else's manager, it gets too complicated. And sometimes it's just asking for help is actually the right questions. Actually, and that is the other part, right? Like actually asking, knowing when to ask someone to actually, hey, I've taken it this far, but for me to take it further, I actually need you to help me.
Right.
And that is also important to be mindful of.
Well, I like that you brought that up. And I think a lot of people struggle with that piece of it, of actually knowing the right juncture or the right point at which to ask for help, and that it's okay. It's almost like, as a leader, you can say what's the ask that you need to make, and of who can best support you with this. Who do you need to speak to? So that they get really used to, that's just part of strategic planning. That's part of making sure that everything goes off as successfully as possible, right? So yeah, I think that point about, making sure they know that you're there for them. And, that sort of appropriate level of risk, appropriate level of challenge or stretch assignment combined with a known or relatively quantifiable amount of risk. So in other words, I'm going to let you do this. It's low risk if it goes wrong, and that's okay. We can tolerate that risk, versus giving someone a job or a project to do that is too big a stretch and not thinking about the risk that poses, and not being clear about the boundaries of this much can go wrong, but if it really goes over here,
Exactly,
we're in a lot of trouble. So yeah.
There is definitely that fine balance between giving someone that stretch assignments, as you say, like they really give this piece of work, and allowing that person to really make of that what they want, and in a good way, right? Like, it's like you can paint the picture. If I give you, we're giving this to you, you can become this, you can make this, increase 3x, 4x, you can change it, you can optimize it, you can grow it. But sometimes, like the sort of the paradox of choice, like when you have too many options, when you have too many paths forward, it's like, all right, I'm actually lost. And really having that support and knowing when to tell when someone is struggling is quite important as a leader, in my opinion. Because again, like, I'm a big believer in giving people ownership, throwing people into the deep end in a good way, saying like, please own this. Like, I know you can do it. But yeah, if that doesn't translate into sort of people be motivated because they actually lost, then you have the opposite effect that you were trying to achieve. And knowing how to identify that and step in and talk to that person and say, hey, I think we might have to have a conversation. I think, this is going well, but I think we might have to take a different path. Or have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And we're trying to get to this result by X time. How do we get together to that point? I think, and having that collaboration, it's quite key. Constant check-ins. I think, to me, collaboration, communication, constant topic of theme of this conversation. Yes.
So what does I'm just looking at the time and it's gone like that. What does delivering through others, what does that give you as a leader?
To me, I'd say the fact that people can, to me, it's probably, I'd say, is the most rewarding piece of being a manager, of being a leader. The ability to set direction for others, and for others to really own and shape initiatives themselves. The fact that over time you can see them growing, you can see them taking on bigger challenges, you can see them replying more eloquently, replying more, from owning the knowledge that you gave the opportunity to acquire. To me, that is just unbelievably rewarding, because that again has that compounding effect on their careers, on their lives. Like, they can do better things over time. They can basically, you open paths for other people. And to me, that's probably the most rewarding piece that I personally get from becoming, or sort of being a manager and being a leader. Just, to me, delivering through others, yes, you accomplish things, you grow businesses, you grow projects, you can do amazing things. But to me, the personal, or the individual aspect, and the ability for each person to become better every day, that is what delivering through others means to me.
I love that. I love that. It's a gift that keeps on giving, for sure. And what I picked up from what you were saying there was believing in people and their ability is actually quite nourishing for ourselves as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It
It's
gives
incredibly
back.
nourishing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We have one question, then we're going to go to phrase of the week. While just before we do that, there's a question from the lovely Ben Miller. He asks, well, a couple of questions. How do we strike the right balance between what we can quantify and things which should be outside of scope, such as conversation, motivation, and values? Should. And the second one, and I'll let you pick which one you want to go with. To have a competitive advantage today, do we need to move beyond an either or mindset to a both and approach?
I'd probably, in terms of the second one, the either or and the and approach. I guess it depends, as usual. It always depends. It depends on what we might be talking about. I think the either or, as a business, you're always forced to make decisions and prioritize. Otherwise, you just cannot get anywhere. You just don't have the capacity to do. It was like the either or. You have to pick, right? However, when it comes to people and culture and motivation and development, I think that's where the and comes in. To me, it's almost like a flywheel. So you have the business operating here, but then the business is fueled by people, and the contributions that people make. Almost like, unless you have these ands with people, you want to have great culture, you have and engaged employees, and motivated employees, and diverse and inclusive workplace, and basically any sort of people initiative that you might want to have. To me, that has to be in place for you to make the right either or decisions that you have to make as a business. If you want to move fast, if you want to iterate, if you want to grow, if you want to again make it to whatever level of success you want to make it. It's all about decisions, trade-offs. That's where the either or comes in. But the and part also is there. And I think one of the most recent debates about do businesses need to just go for profit organizations, or do they also need to be sustainable? That's again like the either or question. To me, it's almost like an and in that case. Like businesses, yes, they have the duty of providing profits to their shareholders, right? That's what their ultimate goal is. But at the same time, you have to do so in a way that hopefully is sustainable in the long run. I'd say that's really my stance on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it comes down to people at the end of the day, right? And you as a leader can make that as rewarding as you like, or you can make it as hard as you like for yourself, right? But plenty of sound advice today. Thank you, Lorenzo. And so it's that time where I've got to do a bit of a footsie dance here. And I'm going to give you the floor. So here you go.
Excellent. Thanks, Ihan. Yes, for the phrase of the week. I guess one thing that I wanted to share with you is something that I learned some time ago that has helped me quite a bit in my career, and it's the value of experimentation. Experimentation applied to your professional alive in your personal life. So obviously we experiment in businesses, we try different things and see what works best. However, I would encourage you all to do the same thing with your lives, with your careers. If you want to switch from one field to another, try to get a side project, try to talk to people, try to inform yourselves of what that work is like, what the day-to-day is like. Is that something that motivates you? Is that something that you would see yourself doing on a daily basis for the next few years? I think these are important decisions that are not to be taken lightly. I think the fact that we can inform our decision making with some hard facts and hard data by just having access to some either networks or projects or initiatives that really helps me understand whether that's something that I want to pursue, something I want to stop, something I want to double down on. And yeah, I think experimentation is incredibly valuable and powerful for both our personal lives and professional careers.
Yay, I love that. I love that. Experimentation. I'm a big fan of experimenting, as anyone who's worked with me knows. We do a lot of experimenting. And, you know, I think it also, I like the idea of experimenting and even the word, because I think it's quite liberating because it allows you to fail.
Exactly.
It allows you to make mistakes, to say, that didn't work, I'll try something else, right? A lighter touch to it than feeling totally torn up by the fact that the results weren't what you expected.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And I think it also allows you to be less prone to procrastination because you say, yeah, I might as well just do it. We'll just see what happens.
Yes.
Unless,
Yes.
I'm not going to do anything just in case it fails. And just not doing anything is also doing something, right? So that's
Right.
sort of the dilemma you have. But yeah, I think execution, so that execution factor is definitely something that experimentation or the experimentation mindset helps with.
Yeah, I like that. Not procrastinating. Yes. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching the replay, please do check out the additional links in the description below and add any comments or questions. We do check those from time to time. So, and do reach out to Lorenzo or myself on LinkedIn. We are here. Oh, that's the wrong one. We're here on Tuesdays, 1 p.m. UK time. We're live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and also on the website betterconversations.live. The time zones for the times for different locations are on the screen now. Lorenzo, thank you so much. It's been, I always enjoy conversations with you. And I hope we have some more in the future as well. But thank you so much for coming and sharing your perspective on delivering through others. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure for me as well. Always great to be speaking with you.
Awesome. Brilliant. Join us next week. Our guest is Emma Wayner, who is a voice coach. So she might give me some tips on how I project my voice on screen and in presentation. So do join us for that one. It will be fun. And until then, I will say farewell. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Sihan. Thanks, everyone. Bye.